Hey there, everybody. This is Josh Grover bringing you another episode of Splash That Cash. This time we are playing 1-2 NL. It just started this session. Just figured to play a little bit bigger than I've been showing the videos on. For those of you out there that are getting kind of sick of like 1025 and 50 NL. Mr. Mowgli elects to call from the small blind, which generally is somewhat of a decent hand. And a board like this, 8-8-3, if I see bet, he's going to call with ace high every time. And I think checking back gives me a little bit stronger of a range than just c betting here. I am going to elect to bet the 10 now. He doesn't have a 10 in his range very often. He doesn't have an 8 in his range very often. The best that I think he would have would be like pocket fours. I'm gonna bet a little bit on the larger side. I think actually like 850. That way, it's really difficult to just call with ace high. If he does call, I'm probably betting river about half pot. He likes to raise, which is really strange. He's raising with a lot of draws, and I can't really put him on much else. I'm actually going to be re-raising. It just doesn't make a whole ton of sense, and I think 60 is the correct amount. Um, I definitely could have been checking back an 8. And for him to check over twice, it just doesn't make a whole ton of sense. I wasn't showing much strength at all by betting that turn, and it is a pretty good check raise turn spot for him. He could turn like clubs or hearts into a bluff shove, but it's just really dangerous the way I played it when I check back flop and then three bet turn. So I think that was the best line. Uh, I think calling would have been pretty bad just because if he did have a 10 or say a hand like sevens or fours or fives and you elect to call that turn, making a move on the river every time it bricks, he's just gonna probably call your river bluff when it bricks because he's just gonna put you on a draw the vast majority of the time. Um, in all honesty, like it doesn't really look like I have a whole lot there, but by doing that, I put him in such a spot that it's going to be extremely difficult for him to do anything unless he does have like say an ace high club draw or ace high heart draw, and he just decides to elect to like bluff shove, which is really tough. Okay, so if I was playing smaller, I would definitely be three betting in this spot with jacks. Because we're playing a little bit bigger. This is actually I think one of the largest games going on the site on this site at the time. So I do just elect to call. It gets three bet by LOLOLOLO. I've been watching him quite a bit, and he's been playing pretty snug for the most part. But there's no reason that Ronaldo or I have like a huge hand, and I'm just gonna elect to call and play this pretty soft, expecting that I have the best hand the majority of the time right now. Um, he raised it really large, which is fine. I am going to probably just check call in this spot. Leading is kind of weird. I think check folding is pretty bad. Um, there's just that's such a small bet. There's really not a whole lot of reason that he thinks or that I'm giving away that I have a super strong hand. By calling this, I am definitely saying that I have a pair though, of some sort. I think that check calling one more street is probably the best play again. I could lead for like half pot because it's extremely difficult for him to bluff shove if it does, but he likes to bet again, which is perfectly fine and normal. I'm gonna end up calling one more street. It does look like he's getting value from 3450. And I'm probably just gonna check fold the river if he likes to bet again. Um, and Jacks is the best hand. I'm not 100% sure where he was at by betting third pot twice or what value he was going for. So I'm just gonna end up limping for a couple reasons. No one really has any information on me. For all they know, I could just be a huge fish. LOLOLO just played a big hand, and I think that he's probably going to raise in this spot a lot of the time because he's a little bit tilty. And then other people might call behind where I can just re-raise pre, which is like perfect spot for me. But unfortunately, that did not happen. And it's just gonna come to a flop, which is perfectly fine. So now we're just playing aces on a flop. And my best advice for a Jack Jack 6 board, I'm not going to get any value from aces if I bet in this spot unless they decide to call with a six, but then I'm still not going to get any value on later streets. So I'm either going to build a big pot when they have a jack and I'm going to lose a big pot, or I can just elect to check and give them a free card. And now hopefully, they picked up a heart draw, a straight draw, a king. Even a six will still call in this spot. And if they do have a jack, the pot is much smaller. There's no reason to believe they have a jack though. I'm just going to bet a little bit on the larger side, hoping you get calls from a king or a six. And I do get a call from the small blind, which the vast majority of the time I think that he has a king or a six and not a draw. I do make aces full, so it's going to be very difficult to get value now. I think a bet of like 950 is probably best. I'm probably not going to get a call a lot of the time, especially if he has a six. I would definitely love to see a raise. That would be really interesting. Oh wow. Okay, so um, possible hand range, I never put him on jack, so I'm definitely not afraid of re-raising. I'm gonna re-raise like massive, like $104 because of the possibility that he does have a jack, like king jack or jack six or ace jack. He just shouldn't be re-raising that spot very often, unless he had like a made hand like queen 10, king jack, ace jack, jack six, sixes. Um, I'm never putting him on jacks by just completing the small blind and calling. So that's why I raised just a massive amount in that spot for how often he actually did have a made hand and slow played it. Because for all the times he had a king or a six, he just wouldn't be check raising. It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. 3-4 off. Unfortunately, I'm going to be folding. I'm not a huge fan. If that was tournament, I would have been calling or three betting. Um, Cash game, especially after I've been playing a few hands. I did have aces and jacks, which made it really easy. And they kind of played themselves a little bit. I think that aces hand. Okay, so a lot of you would be like, "Why'd you raise so big?" But if you think about his possible hand ranges that were to check raise that river, they were all big made hands. It literally made no sense for him to ever have a bluff in that spot. Um, so I get three bet by Mama 1812. Ace four plays pretty bad in a three bet pot, and I'm just gonna fold. Uh, so that aces hand, it, like I said, the reason I raised so large was because the vast majority of the time he has a pretty big hand there, like a straight, pretty much at worst, and which was strange that he snap folded like that because that means he really did have not very much. He probably turned a six into a bluff, to be honest, or maybe a missed heart draw, but that just isn't very often. For a check raise, by the way the hand played, he actually does have like a jack and jack's full a lot of the time, and there's no reason for him to ever believe that I have aces full. So say he did have like ace jack or king jack, or jack six or something, it's an extremely difficult fold for him. And even for as large as I made the three bet on the river, he probably still would have ended up calling, and that's why I made it so large. There's just no reason to re-raise small in that spot. Um, that Jack's hand that I played, it becomes really, really player dependent and very difficult to check call down in those spots. And like I said, even while I was talking through the hand, it's like, well, I'm not 100. It's very difficult spot to just check call down three streets. And I was really hoping he didn't bet the river because I probably would have been forced to fold, especially if he bet like half pot. Um, he third potted twice, and then if he were to like half pot river, I just wouldn't have any reason to really believe jacks were any good. But So when you soft play a hand, um, you have to be very aware that they have no idea what you have. um, the way I played jacks,